Welcome back to Dominate Your Day. Today, I have a really important guest that I just met that I think you guys are going to really resonate with because she's been on a journey. She's found her authentic self and she's living it now. And she's been in amazing countries and done some amazing things, gotten some great degrees. But Georgie, welcome. Georgie Enthoven, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Dana. I am really delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. Well, tell the audience what you're doing now, and then we want to just take a time back and take us back to how you got there.
Yeah, thanks. Great question, and a very important question that has took me a long time to realize how important that question is. But um, in real short, is I believe that business needs to be used as a force for good, and
Mm,
and that's not just not for profits; it's the private sector too. And so, what I do is I help young people find jobs that have a important contribution to the world, something important to them, and pair that with compensation to match. So, I want people to be able to work at something they're passionate about and solve real problems in the world, but to not self sacrifice in the process so that they can last their 90,000 hour career. And yes, 90,000 hours is a long time. So,
is that from graduation to what age? Is that like,
well, it's like it to retirement. And the reason that it's, that number is obviously different for different people. But even when we're not working, if you're taking care of a parent or you on maternity leave, like your mind is still learning. So if you think
yeah,
of it of the time of your adult life, how are you contributing to the world is you have 90,000 hours on average to do so.
it's amazing. Oh, wow. So I've got to figure out how many I have left.
Well,
So,
I'm a
but
calculator.
I feel like that every day. I think the older we get, the more we go, oh, I've got to, got a limited amount of time here to make a difference.
Yes.
So, and that's exactly what we talk about here on Dominate Your Day is how do you design your day instead of living in a reaction mode or just letting life happen to you. And we feel our best when we're our authentic self. And one of the tools we use is Clifton Strengths Finder. And so we got to hear your top five, which you and I share the same one, number one, ideation, which the brain never stops coming up with ideas. It's just a constant. And then you've got learner, which makes sense because you went to Berkeley, then you went to Harvard, right? You went kind of kept, and you're probably continuing to learn,
And
right?
I
Is that?
reading all the time. So yes, I am learning. Yeah, I love learning.
Yeah, that's what, and it's so much fun because learner is not the end result, it's just the process. Like you said, you constantly are reading a book or reading something or studying something. So I bet working on your book was really energizing for
Well,
you.
that's such a that I have at the age where I've really realized that we're all different, so how we approach things makes sense to do it
Mhm.
differently. But for me, the journey of writing a book was so incredibly valuable as a value add in my life that I
Really?
could not have given this book to somebody else to write. I did have an editor to help me and spare the reader from the million words, getting it down to 50,000. But
Wow.
I, even as a beginner and writing, I just thought the process was so amazing. And I would spend hours and hours and hours, and my family would be like, Mom, you have to take a break, or you've got to stop, you've got to come for dinner. But I could just keep going. And I guess that's where you really know that you're in your zone of interest or gifts that you almost can't stop. You're completely blind to time. And that is what the experience was for me. And I'm learning how to be a better writer and a nonfiction writer, but the journey of it has been so valuable and so important for me.
That is amazing. And I love because we're going to talk about your strengths as we go into your story. But as you thought about your purpose and as you, from when you were youth to going to college, what did you think way back then that you were going to be doing?
Yeah,
Did you
I,
always think
I
you would have your own business, or was this kind of
I
a
definitely grew up in a business family, but I always wanted to do good in the world. And when I was at Berkeley, I couldn't quite, I mean, this makes sense of how I live my life, but I couldn't quite fit into one of the majors that were offered. And so they had an option to make up your own major. And at the time, I'd
wow?
lived a lot of my life in emerging markets, grew up in South Africa in particular. And so I pieced together a major, which at the time I called third world development, which now would be more emerging markets. And I
Mm,
studied all different aspects of that, but it was, politics, international relations, sociology, public health, education. So I was really interested in potentially working at the UN or World Bank or something like that. And I really didn't have the resources to know how to do that and prepare. And I think things have changed a little bit, especially with having access to information on your phone. But at the
mhm.
time, Berkeley had a career center that wasn't even on campus. And when you went there, there was like the paper one-liners of like the title of the job and what the salary was, and really not more information. So I found myself very unprepared for the working world when I graduated, and I moved to San Francisco, and I ended up by chance getting sucked into the technology world. So I started out really wanting to have an impact, and
Mhm.
the only impact jobs that I could find were handing out flyers for Greenpeace and things like that. And I just felt that I had more ambition than that, and I couldn't see the career path ahead of me. And so the tech world gobbled me up. And that's where I spent the next 4 years, and was on this path of leveling up weaknesses and trying to succeed in something that I didn't really there was not a big picture for me of what I was going for, but I created the small little ladder of like, okay, I'm going to get promoted to this. I'm going to get this salary. And so I had this ladder in front of me that I was climbing that I had never really given thought to, is this the right ladder?
Oh, wow. So what was a pivotal moment then when you realized, and sometimes we don't know what it is, but we've got a yearning for something else that
Yeah.
we can't quite figure that out.
Well,
So
yeah, a big
what
clue
was
for
that moment?
me on that was I started volunteering on the side. And so I was trying to fit the doing good piece wherever I could because I needed it in my soul and I needed to feel more connected to humanity. But I will say I liked the ambition piece too. I was doing really well at work and I felt excited to be successful and I felt excited to be financially independent. And so there were aspects that I really liked. And I also love the community, and I still keep in touch with some people from those, my early career jobs. And so there were parts of it that I liked, but it lacked meaning. And so I think I was really conscious all the time that I needed that. And my solution was it's going to be a side. That's going to be on the side. It'll be on my weekends, it'll be on my evenings, but it's going to be on the
Mhm.
side. And I was following the ambitious track all the way into Harvard Business School, where I was filled with really ambitious people. And
I
I
bet.
felt like a fish out of water there. And I then lent even more so into how do I level up my weaknesses. Um, so I think
Wow.
it took me a long time.
And there's one thing I want to mention there because I think we've all been raised where you're good at this, but you really need to work on this. And this list of things we're not good at is always so long, and we want to work on that. Which you were saying, you're trying to level up your weaknesses. And I keep hearing this connectedness, this belief, this do good. So where do you think that came from?
I would say in each of us, and a lot of the people, young people that I work with, like early professionals, we all have things we already care about, but we're asking the wrong question. So when you graduate, people say, what are you studying? What do you want to do after you graduate? What do you do for work? And, answers like, I'm an engineer, I'm a marketer, is sort of what we're taught to respond. And that's supposed to give us a clue into what kind of person we are talking to. And I think it's so much more important to be asking, what do you care about? What lights you up? What
Mm,
problems do you want to be solving? And so I think part of it is just the questions are wrong that we're asking. Um, yeah, there's such a narrow funnel for success in the education system that we have in the US. And especially for young people, it's getting harder and harder to pay off debt and buy a house. And so people are steered away from their true passions and interests in just to survive, I think. But do they care about something already? Yes.
It's so interesting because we've got 5 generations in the workplace, and you're really kind of focused on this. I guess it'd be Z. Is it Generation Z right now coming out? This kind of 25 to
Yeah.
35-year-old
It's
that's
millennials
had
and
been
some Gen Zs that are entering the workforce. Yeah.
yeah, and there are a lot of huge beliefs in giving back and doing good in that you see kind of in that generation. So how did you get there from so you went to Harvard Business School. What happened next?
Yeah.
How did you go from
Um,
there to where you are?
I am a mother of three amazing children. And I also, side note, that I married someone from Mexico City. So we spent the first 10 years of our marriage there, and all my kids were born and raised there. And language was
Wow.
one of those things that I had avoided. And note to listeners, anything you're avoiding
Yes.
is going to come back and get you. Like you don't get to escape any of the lessons in life. So I married someone and our life was there, and I needed to learn Spanish. So that set me back career wise a little bit because I was based in Mexico City and really was not a natural at language. But in addition, I had three children in 5 years, and it was a lot
Wow.
to focus on. So I was living in a different country, acclimating to a different culture, raising children in an environment that was very foreign to me. And a lot of my time and energy and my priority went to my family. But as I
Mhm.
emerged out of that, when I had more time, I started to get more involved in projects that I thought were more worth my time. And having children really changed for me, like, what's going to be more important than spending time with my children? And so the question was always like, it needs to be equally or more important, which was now a high bar. And I do see like a lot of parents having to reshift how they think about work after children and the meaning of life. So I ended up spending time switching from what I would say like the ambition side to the doing good side. And I volunteered, got involved, worked with companies as consultants that were all doing amazing things in Mexico and Latin America. And that was felt very meaningful. But now I miss the other side. I missed
Mm.
the paycheck, and I missed sometimes actually the ambition and the structure of a for-profit environment. And so I had done a zigzag to find meaning, but there was still something else missing for me. So
Mm.
but at that time, as any mother with young children will relate, like you're just trying to keep the wheels on. And so
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of time at the end of the day to be thinking what's really going to be the perfect combination.
Mm. So you kind of so you went from you and I think that's cool because it's like each experience brings this intersection of all these things you can do, right? From motherhood to learning a new language to working in a foreign country to getting into doing good. And now you find yourself at this place like, how do I do both? How do I bring in, some income and also do good? So what happened next from there?
Yeah, I mean, I love actually what you just said. One of my favorite interview questions is, what don't we know about you that we haven't asked and we're not requiring in the job description that will be something you're known for? Because I think all of
Yeah.
us sort of try fit ourselves into these roles, especially
Mhm.
working for a company, and that doesn't end up being the part that you're known for, and like really contributing towards. Oftentimes, like there's so much more to each person, but I think for me, what I came to understand is I really like helping people and
Mm.
helping people and energizing people to do their magic. And I think that's something that motherhood brought to me: listening, caring for, taking care of people. And I'm very empathetic as a person. I had to learn boundaries. But
Mhm.
I think where I came out is I just really care about the planet and how the world we're leaving to our kids, and how can I energize the young people to get to where I am faster, so they can have more fulfillment in their 90,000 hours than I did, which took me a long time, a squiggly path. And not that I think you can avoid the squiggles, but and they all add up, like you said. But
Mhm.
if you think of sort of the potency and alignment of your career, I do think listening to people ahead of you or standing on shoulders of others um, who you value, can get you there faster.
So, how did the book come up to be? Because it sounds like what you've been on is this path of income versus impact, and then how to balance that. How did the book come about? And talk to us about the
Yeah,
book.
in COVID, I wanted to keep learning and wanted to keep engaging with people, and so I became certified in coaching. And I really found the techniques and fascinating. And the two things that I really loved is, one is, I don't know what's best for you, and
Mm,
every person has it in them to help themselves. And
mm,
so those principles I found really fascinating. So, like, as somebody who wants to help, I can't just tell you what to do with your life. But what I can
right.
do is help you get to the bottom of, and sort of peel back the onion of your own DNA ID, soul path, and help you highlight what's in there for you. And so I had done this training, and it started working with clients. And after COVID, I was really, really tired. Obviously, we have a family, and I felt like I was so off rhythm with, I didn't even know when I was hungry or when I was tired. It just felt like I was serving and caring for the people I loved and felt very disconnected from who I was. And so I convinced, my kids went to a summer camp that right after COVID, and I convinced my husband, and friends that wanted to join me, and parents, that I needed to go alone on an adventure, and I love adventures. And so COVID's travel restrictions had just lifted, and I booked myself a ticket to Portugal. And 2 days later, I was there, and rented a car and spent almost 3 weeks driving up and down the coast, exploring, walking around. And what is weird is, from being so disconnected to myself, within 24 hours, I would say, I know this sounds really weird, but I got like the book download from the universe. And people write about it, like Elizabeth Gilbert writes about it. And that the universe has these messages that it wants to get across, and you can decide if you're going to raise your hand and take it. And for me, it just all of a sudden hit me with absolute clarity of how my experiences can shape a particular message. And I was at a point where my kids were more independent. I felt like I really wanted to get deeply involved in something, and I loved the message that I had understood. And so I jumped on it. I said yes, and actually, it didn't happen. I was weary. I was like, okay, let me just take it one step at a time and see what doors open. Like, I'm going to just take one step and see how it goes, and then the next step and see how it goes. And the next thing you know, I have an editor. I was writing the chapters. I had an outline. I was filling it in. I was coaching people on it, and so saying yes, I think, is a really important step.
So, was this a mindset thing that happened, or was it epiphany that happened when you got to Portugal and you had this thought come in? Or
It's
was it
probably
something, was it what you
been, I mean, I think anyone that I have talked to post this experience, like, this is what creatives experience all the time. They're not sitting there thinking, going to work, being like, okay, what can I be creative with today? Like, what I have read is, like, when you are getting any of these creative downloads, you just stop
Mhm.
everything and go honor it if that is something that you are aligned with, and
Mm.
it comes to you, and then you get to say yes to it. And so I think that epiphany probably is closer, but it is a mindset of you get a choice.
Mhm. You get to choose. You
Yeah.
get to choose what you're how you're gonna live. So, there was probably once you had that moment, and then you said quickly you kinda had the book of what you wanted to write about and got an editor and all that. Was there some mindset shifts that had to happen for you as you re-entered into your back to your family, back to your home after this 3-week kind of
Yeah.
time, this journey? Yeah,
I
have to
came back.
kinda come back and go, "Okay, it's different now."
Yeah,
You know,
I
"I'm
did.
gonna do something."
I feel like maybe it's like before the book and after the book. I mean, the book has consumed so much of my family because I have been so deeply engaged in the research, the writing, the conversations, the putting it together, understanding, getting to a dead end and realizing that's not going to work, and sort of backtracking and trying again. And um, my family has been so encouraging and supportive. And I would say one of the funny moments that for my family is my youngest son wrote me a note in his Spanish class for Mother's Day this year that they had to do for school, and he wrote. He said, "I'm so proud of you because you're always so passionate about the work you do, and you remind me." And the way he wrote it was, he was, I guess, 10 or 11 at the time, but he said, "You remind me of Hillary Clinton." And, so he spelt it wrong, but I thought, you know what? If my kids are seeing a passionate mother that cares deeply about something and want to contribute positively to the world and look after herself, that is probably so much more important than me having all the time in the world for them. And they're watching how I'm prioritizing. And then, yes, I do. Obviously, they're so important to me, so I do make time for them. But I am adding in my own interest and own life journey on that as well. And they
I
have,
Mhm.
it's not without compromise to them, but it is a compromise that they can understand logically.
And I think that's that my mother worked the entire time I was growing up, and then when I was raising my daughter, I was working, and so I kind of took about 7 years with her, and she was like, "Wait, what are you doing? You're coming in here helicopter mom when you've been on, doing your thing." And so it's finding that balance and finding that time. And then I went back to work. But and now she's got kids and she's doing the same thing, but she's able to do it differently
Yeah.
because of all the technology and running her own business and all that. But I think what I love is how the legacy you're leaving to your children about finding meaningful work, that's not something that you get to see every day. I think a lot of us were wired with you got to go, get your degree, got to work, and there was nothing about meaningful work and bringing value. And so you're on that bandwagon. So tell the audience the name of your book and a little bit about how you wrote the book, kind of so how somebody could read the book when they get it,
Yeah,
who it's
sure.
for.
Okay, so the book is called Work That's Worth It. And
Love the title. Love that title.
and actually, I don't think I've met a single person who doesn't have, like, as you say, that work that's worth it, you just look within. Is my work worth it?
Mhm.
What would work worth it be like? And it's like you're asking that first question for yourself, like, how do I feel my work is worth my time? And is it mattering? And so that is the book title. I will be in all places where books are available. On Amazon, I will have an Audible version, and yeah. So wherever you get your books, you can order it from a bookstore. I don't have a strategy of being directly trying to distribute into bookstores because I don't have the time to go around and sell them off the shelves. But any store can order it because I have a publisher who has access to that. So yeah, wherever you like to get
Mhm.
books, it will be available.
And tell us about how you wrote the book so that the target market of this 25 to 35-year-old, when they get it after their first job, can apply it and start seeing, what do you want them to really get out of it after they've read it and to do once they've read it?
Yeah, I was just talking to a young person who read an early copy, who gave me an endorsement, and she said that there were so many things in that book that she didn't even know she needed to know for work, because
Hmm.
they're not covered in high school and college. A lot of the sort of self-reflection is not, and the inspiration. So I would say like the book really has it offers inspirational stories. So I include real life stories of people who I would say are in careers that are good for them and good for the world. And I call those people disruptors for good. And so they and examples that from big corporations, national, multi-country corporations, to um, somebody who is a solopreneur and influencer for the environment on Instagram. So it's like a whole range of people, and their journeys of how they got to where they are and what's important to them. And so I think the inspiration is really great because it gives you shoulders to stand on and people to use as guides, even if it's not your direct major or skill set, but what is possible and how you can apply it to your area of interest. And the second is the self reflection piece. And so I do a lot of exercises to get you to know more about who you are. And that comes from my coaching training and background, where if you're not going to ask the questions, you're going to live a career where you're jumping one step or two steps ahead, maybe in your thoughts, and you're not having the big picture in mind. And so I think even having a visual of where you want to go, even if it has to change, is so important so you know what you're saying yes to and you know what you're saying no to. So I think that is probably the two biggest benefits, is the inspiration and then the self-reflection.
So, what would you say is the best advice that you got or that you would give to young people right now who are entering the workforce or looking for their second role? What is the best advice you would give them based on what you've been doing about helping these future leaders find work that's worth it?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I, if the very first message is you have 90,000 hours approximately in your work span, and that is an enormous amount of time for you to have a fantastic influence in something you care about. So that's the first thing. The second, I would say, think about the problems you're solving in the world and ask, is this a problem that I want to dedicate 5 years, 10 years, or more of my life to? And would I want to be known for this? And am I proud to be doing this? So often I hear young people wanting to start businesses that maybe like I have a lot of ideas, maybe they have a lot of ideas too, but is that a problem is it worth solving? And you to
Mm.
determine. But it is, so what are the big problems in the world, and are you solving those, or is it something that, in 5 years nobody's going to know about? And the second is the add on to that is what problem are you solving? Is it worth your time?
Mm.
And that is something that you have to reconcile with yourself. And um, not every job is going to be the full package. But if you know where you want to go, you can start building the skills. So sometimes I have people say to me, like, I want to be in investment banking or consulting because I've got to pay off loans, and those jobs are paying more than the other jobs that I'm experiencing, or in tech. And there's nothing wrong with that. So what are the skills that you want to be building there so that you can have a greater platform later? And how can you start to understand what is the contribution you want to make to the world in parallel with gaining those skills? So understanding the thinking is really important.
And it's important too that as you're thinking, as I hear you talk about this message you want to leave them and the guidance that your advice that you just gave, what is your mission? What is your personal mission?
I mean, my personal mission is to be able to look my kids in the eye and say, I have contributed positively to the world. And so I want to be able to tell them that I care and that I've done what I can in the most effective way. And so what
I love
yeah,
that.
to me, what that is I just see, I'm somebody in the business world, and I just see that is we're all rich in hours, especially when you're young in your career. You have a
Mhm.
lot of hours to give, a lot of hours to put in a direction. And so my purpose is to help people figure out how to direct those hours. And getting the direction right is so much more important than sort of what you're gaining in the short term. And moving in the right direction gives you such satisfaction. So yeah, that is definitely where I feel lit up and excited when people have those breakthroughs and they start to be able to find the option that's good for them and good for the world.
You also have, your core values, which are so many people, you've probably seen this in coaching. I see a lot in the leadership space is most people don't know their core values, but you know yours. And I look at them and I go, oh my gosh, I see them on your website of contribution, adventure, courage, curiosity, and connection. And then I look at your strengths because they always align. So it's amazing that you have connectedness and connections big for you. You have curiosity, and that's your ideation and your learner. And then you have the contribution, which is your relator.
Yeah.
So and adventure is your ideation.
Well,
So it's like it's all
I
there.
love that you bring that
It's
up,
like,
and because so many young people will come to me and you say, "What are you looking for in for your career?" And they say, "I want to have something that aligns with my values." 90% of Gen Z consumers believe that companies have a responsibility to address environmental and social issues, and so I say, "Okay, great. What are those values?" And they say, "That it's a good company." Like there are so many
yeah,
options for about like this is like a DNA fingerprint. You've got to spend
it is.
time investing in that, and you're going to be living with your values whether they're conscious or not conscious. But when they are conscious, it's so much easier to understand why you're having those feelings of guilt, misalignment, frustration, because you just now I'm out of line with who I am and my values.
And that's so, and I think you use the word misalignment, and I think that's what we're looking for when we're helping people get into their authentic self is that alignment where, oh, this is me and I'm me now. I don't have to be that person that I was trying to be. I can be my unique self. So, Georgie, as we get ready to close out, is there anything that I haven't asked you or anything coming up for you right now that you want to make sure you share with the audience as we get ready to leave them today?
I mean, the last thing you just said, I think is just so important. When you are authentic and aligned with who you are and connected to who you are now very unique, and you are no
Mm,
leading. You are offering the world something individual, and so I think you can see that from people who are my heroes like Jane Goodall or Nelson Mandela, or like they're so unique in their approach, how they offer their gifts to the world, what they want in return. And I think that just being authentic, if you can figure that journey out, it's way more important than racking up skills.
good point. That is a great point. I love leaving everybody on that point. What is the best way that they can find you and hear about your book? And I know you've got some cool things on your website. Do you want to tell them
Yeah.
how to find you?
Do you have show notes? Yeah.
We do. We'll put them in the show notes too.
So
Yeah,
my website is georgienthoven.com. And if the spelling's hard, I think then the show notes are a good
it'll be on
option.
the website. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
also on Instagram and at Georgi Enthoven. And you can look at Work That's Worth It, the URL as well for the book piece. And I have a podcast also, Work That's Worth It. And so I have free options and paid options, so all sorts of things in between to get people on their journey. But the most important thing is that I care that you are finding work that's worth it for you.
That's great. Well, Georgie, thanks so much for bringing such great value today to our audience. And we just wish you the best. And your book is launching. Is it out
So
now or is
April
it getting ready
8th.
to? April 8th. Okay, so we will look forward to seeing that then. And can you order early copies, or
I will have
is it one?
pre-order. Yeah, I will
Good.
pre-order on Work That's Worth It website. Yeah,
I could see that being such a great gift for people that are in that age range.
yeah.
So
And
awesome. Thank you so much,
for
Georgie.
people graduating.
Yes, it's a perfect gift.
Yeah,
Perfect timing, right? May
yeah.
graduation. Yes.
All right. Well, thank
Well,
you so
great.
much for having me. It's a
Again.
delight talking to you, Dana, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks.